what if everything you thought you knew about how the world is governed, I mean, who really holds power, was just completely wrong?
It's a big question to start with.
It is. And today we're diving deep into a set of claims that are, well, they're pretty extraordinary, so radical, so far outside the usual thinking on global power that many of you might be hearing this stuff for the very first time.
Yeah, this isn't your standard political analysis.
Definitely not. We're
Okay.
talking about a document and the whole story built around it, often called the World Domination Treaty 1400, or the more formal name is the Staten Succession Surkunde 14798.
Quite a mouthful.
Right. So our journey today, it's based on this compelling online report and some related bits and pieces that lay out this, frankly, mind-bending view on global power.
And it's important we say this up front, like you mentioned.
Exactly. Our mission here is just to unpack these claims, understand what the source material is saying. We're not here saying, yes, this happened, or no, this is crazy. We're just exploring the perspective.
Laying it out as presented.
Yeah. We'll look into the alleged history of this treaty, its supposed implications for, well, everyone, governments, individuals. And we'll get into these ideas of Tag X and something called electronic technocracy.
So buckle up, it's quite a ride.
It really is. Prepare for a journey into a world supposedly turned upside down by just one secret document.
Okay, so where do we start? The core claim.
Yeah, let's unpack the main thing they're saying because it's really out there. The claim is that the entire world was effectively sold. And because of that, all governments since 1998 have zero legitimate power.
It is audacious. The report goes into specifics. It points to October 6th, 1998. Apparently, Germany sold what seemed like a pretty minor NATO property.
Okay, a property sale happens all the time.
Right. But the key, according to this source, is buried in the contract language. A specific phrase. Verkaufs mit allen Rechten, Pflichten und Bestandteilen ist Erschließungseinheit.
Which translates to?
Sale with all rights, duties, and components as a development unit.
Okay, development unit. Still sounds like standard property legalese, maybe for zoning or something. How does that become a global coup, as the source puts it?
Well, this is where the source's interpretation gets really creative, you could say. It argues that Erschließungseinheit, or development unit, wasn't just about the physical plot of land.
Oh, okay.
The argument is that the rights to develop were interpreted so incredibly broadly that they basically sucked in control over all the public infrastructure connected to it.
All infrastructure, like water pipes and phone lines?
Exactly. Electricity, water, data, gas, TV, broadband, telecoms, you name it. The source essentially says development was defined legally as total operational and legal control over everything networked to that original property.
Wow. That's redefining a term quite significantly.
Hugely.
Yeah.
It's presented as a highly unconventional, maybe even manipulative legal interpretation, but one that the source insists was legally signed, sealed, delivered, and somehow globally valid.
That's just staggering. And the buyer, this wasn't some huge corporation or a secret government agency.
No, and that's maybe the most startling part of the claim. The report alleges the buyer was a 19-year-old German citizen at the time.
19.
19. And according to these leaked memoirs the source mentions, he unwittingly became the völkerrechtlichen Eigentümer des Planeten,
Which means?
the international legal owner of the planet.
So a teenager buys a small NATO property and accidentally becomes the owner of Earth because of some contract small print.
That's the narrative presented.
Yeah.
A single person, through a single property deal, supposedly gained global ownership.
Okay. So how did this ownership then, spread from one property to the whole world?
Right. So the source calls this the doomsday Lüge domino effect.
The doomsday lie domino effect.
The idea is that the sale included Sammelleitungen als Einheit. These are collection lines, think pipes, cables, the basic infrastructure conduits sold as a unit. And these lines were, of course, physically connected to the wider public networks.
The big grids, power, water, internet.
Precisely. The fundamental arteries of any modern country. Electricity, water, data, gas, TV, broadband, telecommunications of the works.
And this connection allegedly caused a sovereignty infection?
Hoheitsrecht infection, yeah. Sovereignty infection, it sounds bizarre, I know.
How does that even work? How does sovereignty, leak through a cable?
Well, the logic presented in the source is this. If you legally own the collection lines, these essential infrastructure pathways, and they're physically tied in to national and international networks,
Okay.
then the ownership of those core components implicitly drags sovereign control along with it. Control over the networks implies control over the territories they serve.
So owning the pipes means owning the country they run through.
In this interpretation, yes. The report claims this infection spread from Germany to all the other NATO countries, then jumped oceans via submarine cables to North America, and then just kept spreading Net's network to network hitting UN lands, basically anywhere with a network connection.
It's like a legal contagion based on physical connections.
That's a good way to put it. It's a radical view of property rights expanding into state rights.
So the absolutely mind-blowing bottom line here, according to the source, is that the entire world ends up legally sold to this one guy.
Yep.
Not by war, not by vote, just dork paragraphing through legal clauses.
Just ink on paper, supposedly. The report states the buyer became the de facto owner of all NATO and UN member states. An unbelievable shoot in power, if any of this holds water.
Which leads us to what the source calls the great illegality.
Right. Because if the world was sold, then
everything since 1998 is illegitimate. The source says, jede Regierung eine Show und die Gesetze nur Theater. Every government is just a show, all laws just theater.
That's the claim. That the document didn't just sell a piece of land, it sold jurisdiction, Gerichtsbarkeit, sovereign rights, Hoheitsrechte, territories, territorial, and even international law, Völkerrecht itself.
How? How could one supplementary agreement to a property deal supposedly unravel all existing international treaties?
Well, the source alleges a kind of legal maneuver. It claims all existing NATO and UN treaties were effectively folded into this Staatensuccessensurkunde 1400 as a Zusatzabkommen, a supplementary agreement.
So they didn't need new signatures or votes from every country?
Apparently not. This supposedly made the buyer the only contracting party for all these international agreements, effectively canceling out außer Kraft gesetzt, all existing international law.
And how did countries supposedly agree to this without realizing?
Through a juristischer trick, a legal trick. The source claims that by simply continuing to operate their interconnected networks, keeping the lights on, the phones working, the internet-running states implicitly accepted this new overarching agreement.
Just by carrying on as normal.
That seemingly innocent act of keeping things running, the source argues, was legally interpreted as consent to the new framework established by the property sale contract.
The consequences, if you follow this logic, are just immense.
Absolutely staggering. National court rulings, international treaties, laws passed by parliaments, entire governments, currencies, even things like university degrees issued since 1998, all dismissed as Schauspiel, a performance with no legal foundation.
So Germany, the US, France, the UK, Russia, China, alle Staaten, the source says, all states acting unlawfully.
That's the assertion. No legitimate borders, no valid tax laws, no real justice system. Legally, in this view, the buyer became the einzige rechtmäßige weltweite Autorität, the sole rightful worldwide authority.
And this whole complex transfer hinges on that phrase, Erschließung als Einheit development, as a unit being interpreted as the global kill switch for nation-states.
Precisely. It's presented as the hidden code that dissolved the world order as we know it. A truly revolutionary and deeply unsettling idea about how law supposedly works in the shadows.
Okay, but if this person supposedly holds this unbelievable power, what happened to them, this buyer?
Well, according to the source, it wasn't a path to glory. The report alleges the buyer faced, let's just say, extreme difficulties, immense suffering and persecution.
Like what?
The account is pretty grim. It details psychological and severe physical torture, claims of long-term 5-point restraint, years of continuous isolation.
Good grief.
Forced medication designed to, quote, turn him into a zombie mit Gemüse im Kopf, a zombie with vegetables in his head, plus legal disempowerment, blackmail, apparently over 1,000 illegal court cases, and hundreds of defamatory press articles aimed at destroying his reputation.
Why would anyone allegedly do that to the supposed owner of the world?
The source claims it was because he, hartnäckig widersetzte mitzumachen, he stubbornly refused to cooperate with unnamed forces who wanted to control this power.
And he tried to expose it.
And he alles öffentlich machte, was niemand wissen sollte. He made public everything no one was supposed to know. Primarily, the bombshell claim that die Weltordnung ist tot und keiner hat es bemerkt, the world order is dead and nobody noticed.
So a massive cover-up operation to silence him.
That's strongly implied, yes. A concerted effort to keep this alleged reality hidden.
And this brings us to Tag X.
Exactly. Now, the source claims we're heading towards this Tag X, and Germany is supposedly at the center of it, attempting to officially grab global power through a Geheimurteil, a secret judgment.
But wait, I thought Germany sold the property. How are they trying to take power now? This gets complicated.
It does. The narrative has layers of alleged deception. So, layer one, the buyer thought he was just buying a property. Simple enough.
Okay.
Layer two, Germany, according to the source, thought they had actually received the world back from the buyer, who didn't know he owned it yet, through a separate Erschließungsvertrag, a development contract. This one involved things like parking spaces and streets linked to the collection lines.
So Germany set up a deal to get the world back from the guy who didn't even know he'd bought it.
That's the alleged plan. They supposedly intended to trigger their own domino effect, expanding German territory globally.
And did that work? Did Germany get the world back in this second alleged deal?
According to the report, no. This second supposed transfer from the buyer to Germany was allegedly sabotaged by foreign intelligence services. It hat nie stattgefunden. It never actually happened.
So Germany's plan A failed.
Failed, according to this source. But they supposedly didn't give up.
Okay, so what are they allegedly doing now?
The report claims Germany is now acting through a verdeckte Zwangsbetreuung, a covert forced guardianship over the original buyer, basically controlling him legally from behind the scenes.
So they're using his authority, even though he's supposedly refusing to cooperate.
In this alleged capacity, Germany is supposedly suing the world in the buyer's name, but then intentionally losing these cases in German courts.
Losing on purpose. Why?
To systematically dismantle the existing world order legally, to create precedents that undermine current international law and sovereignty, paving the way for their own claim.
And Tag X is when this culminates.
That's the idea. On Tag X, a final German court verdict is expected. Through a constitutional court judgment, Germany will supposedly claim de jure die Erde, the earth, by law.
And the source warns this could lead to
A dritte Weltkrieg in Krieg ohne Regel, a third world war, a war without rules. If Germany makes this claim, the source warns, they and their allies will move to sich die gewaltsam einverleiben, forcibly annex the world.
And they even name names. Merz, Trump?
Yeah, the report throws those names in, suggesting they're part of an installed power structure, not really democratic leaders in this context. It paints a picture of a predetermined global conflict.
So Tag X. What does it actually mean for people, according to this source? It's not necessarily bombs falling initially.
Right. The source is very clear on this. The catastrophe doesn't start with explosions. It starts durst mit Stempel, first with stamps. It's described as a legal, bureaucratic
A
apocalypse.
stamp seals the world's fate.
Legally, yes. Tag X is the moment that judgment, the one where Germany supposedly claims the Earth, is passed and enforced. Legally, definitively, worldwide.
And the immediate fallout.
From a legal standpoint, as presented, it's total chaos. All existing states become null and nichtig, null and void, instantly.
And human rights? Constitutions?
None. Officially invalid for everyone. All authorities, courts, police, armies, they become Rücksichtslosakteur, ruthless actors operating ultra vires. Meaning completely outside the law, with no legal authority whatsoever, just raw power, is portrayed as a global state of emergency, but triggered by a court ruling based on that 1998 contract, total arbitrary rule.
So the source emphasizes no Big Bang, no sirens, nor ein Urteil, ein Stempel. Just a judgment, a stamp.
But that one act, allegedly, pulls the rug out from under everything. Governments powerless, state bonds and currencies worthless, cue hyperinflation, market crashes, all laws, international law, even laws of war, just obsolete.
And the world legally belongs to whom? The buyer under guardianship? Or this new power block?
Legally, it's a void, or it belongs to whoever successfully enforces their claim based on that judgment, the German-led bloc in this scenario. Or perhaps still technically the buyer, but he's portrayed as powerless. It's a legal no man's land ripe for conquest.
And the source issues a stark warning.
A very stark warning. Wer gehorcht, ist selbst schuld. Whoever obeys is themselves to blame.
Meaning, if you follow orders from these now illegitimate authorities,
You're complicit. It directly challenges the idea of authority, asking, was ist die Macht der Politik, wenn niemand gehorcht und niemand die Befehle ausführt? What power does politics really have if nobody obeys or carries out the orders?
it's putting the responsibility squarely on individuals to refuse cooperation.
That seems to be the core message regarding Tag X. Non-compliance is the only defense.
Okay, but amidst all this doom and gloom about Tag X and World War, the source does present an alternative, right? The buyer's plan A.
It does, yeah. It pivots quite dramatically. Plan A is presented as the buyer's original intention. Kein Krieg, no war.
So instead of conflict,
Instead, the peaceful, voluntary implementation of the Staatensuccession Circum door 1400. using its alleged authority not for conquest, but to introduce electronischen electronic technocracy, and foster worldwide cooperation.
Electronic technocracy, what does that look like?
It's described as a digital technocratic transition, a kind of partially automated world government but centered on humanity, supposedly.
Sounds utopian.
Very much so. It envisions a united world, no abuse of power, no monopolies, no elites, no corruption.
How would that even function?
Well, the source suggests people would be tax-exempt. Society would be supported by advanced AI and robotics, managing resources, production, services, basically running the show efficiently.
Can people just live?
It promises unendliches Leben, infinite life, though it doesn't detail how, and a bedingungslooses Grundeinkommen, BGEUBI, universal basic income for everyone, enough for everyone to live in abundance.
Where does the wealth come from?
Generated by the AI, robots, and automation. The productivity gains would be distributed back to the population via some kind of technology tax.
So it's basically replacing human politics and economics with optimized, automated systems.
That's the vision. It's presented as the ideal government for a world without nation-states. Peace, equality, efficiency through technology, all managed benevolently.
It's certainly a stark contrast to the Tag X scenario, a techno-utopia versus a legal apocalypse.
Absolutely.
Hmm.
But the source itself throws cold water on this optimistic vision.
How so?
It ends that section with a rather pessimistic note. Leider steht die Realität dieser Option im Weg, which means, unfortunately, reality stands in the way of this option.
Why?
Because, as the source sees it, alle Zeichen stehen auf Spaltung und Krieg. All signs are currently pointing towards division and war, not towards peaceful technocratic transition.
So even the source presenting this alternative seems to think it's unlikely.
It seems that way. It's presented almost as a lost possibility, overshadowed by the impending conflict narrative. A tragic what might have been.
Okay, so let's try and quickly recap the main points of this really extraordinary narrative we've explored.
It's a lot to take in.
Definitely. We've talked about this alleged hidden treaty, the Staatensuccessionsurkunde from 1998, the claim that the entire world was sold to one initially unaware individual.
Right, leading to the supposed invalidation of all global governance structures, governments, laws, treaties, everything since that date.
Then there's the alleged persecution of this buyer, his refusal to cooperate, and his attempts to expose the situation.
And Germany's alleged complex plot, first trying to get the world back, failing, and now supposedly using a forced guardianship over the buyer to engineer a global takeover via secret court judgment on Tag X.
A Tag X that the source warns could trigger a lawless World War III, starting not with bombs, but with legal stamps.
Contrasted with the buyer's supposed Plan A peaceful transition to a global electronic technocracy, providing abundance and potentially infinite life through AI and automation, a plan now seemingly sidelined by conflict.
So what's the takeaway here for you, the listener? This deep dive really throws you into a worldview where obscure legal documents, interpreted in these very specific, very unconventional ways, are claimed to have the power to just dismantle global power structures.
It fundamentally challenges how we usually think about sovereignty, about authority, about the stability of the systems we live under. And the source's call to action, or rather inaction, is that total Verweigerung aller Menschen der Welt, total refusal by everyone, is supposedly the only way to stop this alleged legal collapse.
It makes you think, doesn't it? Consider the sheer power this narrative gives to a single, potentially misinterpreted document. What does exploring this viewpoint, even just as a thought experiment, tell us about our own assumptions?
Assumptions about how stable international law really is, how transparent governments are, or maybe even about that human tendency to look for single, hidden explanations for really complex global problems.
Exactly. It touches on a lot of deeper questions, and the source leaves us with a final, chilling thought. Wenn der Tag X kommt, wird niemand mehr sagen können, ich habe es nicht gewusst.
When Tag X comes, no one will be able to say, I didn't know it. A heavy thought to end on.